book about Facebook is out this morning. It is titled An Ugly Truth Inside Facebook's Battle for Domination. Amid scrutiny, Facebook shares continue to soar, though, now above $1 trillion. Joining us right now to talk about it are the co-authors of this book out, New York Times reporters Shira Frankel and Cecilia Kang. Good morning to both of you. Congratulations on the book. I want to dive into so many pieces of it to both of you. Let's start with this in terms of there are so many aspects of what's taken place over the last 5 years. But in terms of revelations for the audience, what do you think is the biggest? Shira?
You know, I think people going into this think they know Facebook, and I would say that we as reporters have reported on it for over a decade combined, and we were surprised by a lot of what we found. There's a pattern that we show in this book of Facebook repeatedly making the same mistakes again and again, ignoring warnings, not heeding the things that they knew themselves about their company. And the strength of the book is really in showing that repeated pattern.
Cecilia, the thing that I've been baffled by is there is a narrative, and it is, in fact, the narrative of the book, that there are these ugly truths about Facebook. And yet, and I just mentioned it, you look at the market value of this company, it's at its absolute height. There have been so many issues where you would have imagined that the public might have stepped back from using the product, and yet more are using the product. Where do you think the disconnect exists?
Well, I do think that Facebook has become a ubiquitous utility for so many users. It's hard to actually not use Facebook. It's hard, especially if you're a parent or you're involved in some sort of club where they meet on Facebook through Facebook groups. So that's the consumer side of it. And I think people do get enjoyment out of Facebook, but they also feel uncomfortable with what they see as repeated problems and mistakes and real harms that they see for society. The markets are enthusiastic about the company because it's a business that's unabated. It's a very strong business model that has been completely unslowed or unhindered in any way. And the future looks very bright for this model that Facebook has really led.
But if the company is as tortured as the book would suggest, and the governance, I mean, one of the things that's so interesting about the book is you take a real hard look at the governance of the company and specifically the role of Mark Zuckerberg, his relationship with Sheryl Sandberg in the book, and the idea that in many ways, I think the book effectively argues that while there may be a board, it is really run by one individual, that you'd think there'd be more concern about that if that was the problem.
Absolutely, Andrew. You're so right. I mean, one of the main takeaways of this book is what absolute power lays with Mark Zuckerberg. It's unusual to have a company which is structured in the way that Facebook is for so long, where the founder and CEO has such absolute control. The board that exists is really just there for recommendations. They have no power over him. The other executives that are there, they serve as something of a court. They serve at his will. And so the mistakes that were made continue to be made because really at the top, nothing changes.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.